big deal. It's very cool. I'm real excited about it.
Why have you never been back?
Oh my God, I've been talking about this for 20 minutes. No television deal. No television deal here. The television, we're 6 or 7 years behind where we should be here. You know, no television deal. But like I said, we got the right guy in place now. This dude is kicking ass. You know, I'm really excited about when I get together with Gary, whether he flies to Las Vegas and comes into the office or I come out here and talk to him, I get excited every time I talk to this guy. He's the real deal. This is the guy that's going to get it done. This is it. If he doesn't get it done, you'll never hear me say, this is it, we're getting it done now, because this is the guy that's going to do it.
And Josh Barnett revealed this week that he turned down an offer from you guys. Is there a counter coming, or is that it? Negotiations done?
You know, he's a big boy. He's been around for a long time. He kind of flies by the seat of his pants anyway. He's never really been, I mean, even after he won the title. I mean, imagine if Josh Barnett had stayed in the UFC his whole career and what he could have accomplished and the money he could have made and all the things that could have happened. But he's his own guy. He wants to do his own thing. I got no problem with that.
But the offer's there if he wants it. And I mean, are you done with him?
No. I haven't dealt with him at all.
Right.
Joe Silva was dealing with him. So, I know there's an offer on the table for him, and if he wants to take it, he's, it's been offered, and if not, he's always been his own guy anyway, so he could.
Ronda Rousey fighting next week, obviously that's a big week for you. Too early to determine, how things are tracking, what the expectations are, or what do you think?
I'm not really focused on that right now since I've been out here.
I don't mean necessarily a specific number, but
I can tell you this. I was pretty surprised by some of the negative feedback about her and Liz being the main event and all the things, but I see it all turning now since Primetime came out. And last night I watched the first cut. We're building the show right now because it all happens real time. There's no way that you can watch this show and not want to see these girls fight. It's just the second episode's just as good as the first.
I guess the big question that's been going around the media is why wasn't this on Fox? Why ask people to pay $55 versus let's put it on network TV, people can tune in for free, they can satisfy their curiosity without having to reach into their pocket. So why did it make sense to put them on pay-per-view versus Fox?
She's been on television for years. It's not like this is the first time the girls have ever been on TV. They've been on Showtime, pulled great numbers on Showtime, considering what Showtime pulls. They pulled great numbers. And it's a great card. They deserve to headline it. And listen, you know me, man. If you want to buy it. If you don't buy it.
Dana, is it a proud moment for you when the Rousey fight takes place? Is it a proud moment for you and the company?
Is it what?
Is it a proud moment for you?
It is. It actually is. Especially if you look at what my stance was a couple of years ago. For me to sit here in front of everybody and say, yeah, these women deserve to be on, not only on the card, but headlining and on pay-per-view. Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, I was talking to Rogan last night, and Rogan is so pumped for this card. A lot of people are excited for it. So.
You ever chat to, sorry, I was just saying, you ever chat to Matt Hughes about it? Because I remember him being asked directly in a press conference one time, do you advocate women's MMA? And he bluntly said no.
Yeah, that was me a couple years ago too. You have to understand too, me and Matt Hughes are guys that have been around since, 15 years I've been doing this. I've been in this business, and I've seen some pretty nasty girl fights at small, horrible little shows. It's not what you're going to see next weekend. You're going to see two high-level athletes, and the way that they've both carried themselves through this thing. And I mean, if you just look at how hard the training, the girls' training, look at the fucking mitt work. The mitt work that the girls are doing on Primetime looks better than half the fucking guys in the UFC. Seriously. Look at some of the guys' mitt work. There's times, you understand this, every fucking thing that airs on television, commercials, the show open, I don't care what it is, everything that goes through our production does not leave that fucking building without me seeing it first. And I touch everything, right? You know how many times I've had to say, oh my God, look at this guy on the fucking mitts, cut this and put, this guy looks like he's fucking hit the mitts 3 times in his life. You look at these two girls hit the mitts on Primetime, I got to stop because I'll tell you too much, but the next episode of Primetime, there's actually a really cool moment in this episode. It's pretty badass. Yeah, I'm to say that I'm proud is an understatement. Yeah, these girls deserve to be there. They belong there, and I'm excited for next week.
Annoy you when people some say Lyoto Machida v Dan Henderson is the real main event.
Right. No, it doesn't bother me. Hey, listen, if you think that Henderson and Machida is the real main event, that makes me happy too. The card's deep and you like the whole thing, you know? And it goes deeper than that. There's a ton of great fights on that card, so.
This is the thing. To me, it seems like you're putting on the best card you've ever put on this year. It's like almost night and day different to anything I've ever seen covering this sport. Do you get are you well aware of that? You're taking this to another level.
It's great when people aren't getting hurt every 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Normally, I'm sitting at one of these things and guys are dropping like flies. Last year was one of the worst years we've ever had due to injury, and not just there's always going to be injuries, but it was like main card or co-main and main event falling off every other week. So yeah, I mean, if you saw last year before we started the year, we're like, this fucking year is going to kick ass. The fights that we got lined up are going to be amazing. Boom, 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 guys just getting hurt. So when the fights that you plan go off, it's a great thing. Plus, the other thing that happened too was bringing in these guys from Strikeforce. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw my blog the night that those kids were winning and the fights were happening that night, but that night was the highest rated prelim show we'd ever done in the history of UFC prelims, right? With all these Strikeforce kids, and all these Strikeforce kids were so just pumped up to be there and to be fighting in the UFC, and it was just, that was a great night for me too. I don't know if you could tell on the blog, but I was having a fucking blast that night, and kids were just going crazy. It was a fun night.
It was an awesome.
Yeah, so it's just, we got tons of great fighters now. Everybody's healthy, and as long as it stays this way, it's going to be a good year.
To Michael Bisping, you briefly mentioned and hinted that he's in for another big fight. Is it against one of the Strikeforce guys? Can you elaborate on that?
What's the question?
Belcher.
Who's he fighting? He's fighting Alan Belcher.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, he's fighting Belcher. Yep.
Also, one other question. Who's next for Nick the Tooth?
Who's next? Nick the Tooth. Nick the Tooth drank too much in Ireland. He's not ready. He's not fit to fight anybody right now.
Sorry, yeah, he was drinking the Guinness, wasn't he?
Oh, he drank. He drank the Guinness. He drank the local ale. He drank Scottish whiskey, 200-year-old Scottish whiskey. He had snuff. Have you ever heard of that? You guys see the snuff?
Yeah.
They were selling snuff back there, which is basically Vicks Vapor Rub in a powder form. Yeah, Nick the Tooth hit everything you could possibly do in Ireland. Yeah, he had fun.
So he's the official taster then, is he?
Yeah.
He's not behind you now.
Yeah. The Tooth had fun in Ireland, man.
Possibly Shah versus Show. Is that something we're looking at?
Shogun and who?
Shah.
And Rashad? It's a fight, yeah. I mean, that's a fight that could happen, yeah. Yep. But I keep hearing this thing that Nogueira and Shogun want to fight each other. They want to do the rematch, yeah. I don't know how that makes sense for Nogueira, but that's what they want. That's what I'm hearing they want. Far be it from me to not give somebody what they want.
You know, speaking about playbooks getting torn up, like with your injuries and stuff last year, and in the start of this year, obviously, Overeem, if he won that fight, was going to go into a heavyweight title shot. And what exactly did your face look like as you watched Overeem getting knocked out by Bigfoot?
Believe me when I tell you guys, I always read stuff on the internet. I was like, oh, Dana must have been pissed about this or putting his head through the wall about that. I don't ever go into a fight with any expectations. And if again, on that last video blog, I telling Chuck, I went up and told Kane, well, the good news is you are undoubtedly the best heavyweight in the world. Bad news is it just cost you a lot of money, big guy, you know, because that would have been a big fight for him.
Dana, one of the most popular conversations in recent history has been the term super fight. Would there be any super fights going on this year, possibly, or not? Or is that something for further?
I hope so. I mean, that's what I want to do. Our big anniversary is coming up in November, man, and I want to do a big one in November. So,
what would you be targeting?
Big one. The biggest of the big.
You still feel good about New York for that date, or is it?
We'll see, man. I felt good about New York for years, and it's still not here. So it's like my TV deal in England.
How about Vegas news? The Ultimate Fighter 17 finale. We found out this week that Def Leppard is booked on the date at the Hard Rock. So is there?
So what happened was Def Leppard was doing a residency there, and they extended it because it was, I guess, it's doing great. So good for Def Leppard. So we're gonna move. We're gonna go somewhere else. We're talking about doing Mandalay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you got a title fight on there. It's a good card.
Yep. So we'll probably do Mandalay. But could end up somewhere else. We're just talking to Mandalay right now. Yeah.
You know this GSP Anderson Silva super fight that the UFC is pushing for?
And I like, when we talk about super fights, dude, I love fucking Pettis and, you know, how do you not like the Pettis Aldo fight? I mean, that's a fucking super fight. Some people were like, are you shitting me? Pettis sends a text and he gets are you fucking shitting me? You don't want to see Pettis versus fucking Aldo? That's craziness. I love that fight. Anyway, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was going to say that because Anderson's calling for GSP to move up to, you know, a catch weight or something, come up in weight, and is that not broadly similar?
Anderson would go to 70 too.
Would he?
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
It's a process in dealing with him.
Right.
It's a process that you gotta.
Because what I was going to say was if the catch weight
He says he
happened,
can make 70 easy,
right?
which is insane.
Have you found him easier to deal with since that last Sonnen fight then? Because he seemed to open the doors to you suddenly last year. Anderson,
He's always
didn't he?
been. It's not that he's been. You've never heard me say that he's difficult to deal with. The only times I was ever really upset with him was Abu Dhabi, you know, and a couple of times when he did the Talis Latis and the Maya fight were the only times that I was ever really upset with Anderson Silva. He's actually pretty easy to deal with. He's not. It's just a process. It's a process in dealing with him.
Dana,
But I respect him so much. I'm willing to do the process.
And would you still prefer GSP Anderson to Anderson Jones?
I'll take either one. I'll take either one of them and both. Take either one and both.
Could Jones move up to heavyweight in the future?
It'll happen.
It'll happen.
It'll happen.
Definitely.
It'll definitely happen.
Dana, you talked about your own change in perception with regards to Ronda Rousey and a women's division within the UFC.
Yep.
Your perception changed. You talked about the UK being 5 to 7 years behind America in terms of perception. Do you ever get
And the
tired?
rest of the world.
Well, behind the rest of the world in perception. Do you ever get tired of going and trying to have to change perception around the world because it is a part of your job? Do you ever get tired of having to do that?
It's what I do, man. That's literally what I've been doing for 13 years since we own this thing. No, it doesn't. You know, it's really just about doing business. You know, the market here in the UK isn't like the United States. There aren't a zillion channels here where there's all this competition. Things are pretty locked up tight here. It's a tough market to break into, and they can put the squeeze on you here if they want to, and they have been on us. There's no doubt about it. You guys know as well as anybody who watches this sport, you put us on the biggest network in the UK. We did it in the United States when people thought it couldn't happen in the United States. We did it in Brazil. We just went to China and put on the most successful event in Macau history. Everywhere we go, it happens, and it will happen here too. Just they, you know, give us that platform, and we know we'll do it, but they're not going to give us that platform.
But it is having that platform, isn't it, in order to have it in the mainstream, for it to be seen by enough eyes.
Yeah.
And
for us to bring the UFC to the UK the way that you want it, and the way that the fans want it, and the way that it should be here, we've got to have that television deal.
Is Anderson signed now, and how many years is he signed for? Or sorry, how many fights is
We didn't. He's not signed yet. No, that deal's not done yet.
So what was his 10-fight deal that everyone was talking about?
Well, I said, where that came from was I said, we're working on doing a new 8-fight deal with him, and he said, let's do a 10-fight deal. That was what I said. I didn't say we did it, we signed it.
You accidentally got misquoted. People took your they quoted you wrong and reported it as it was done when you had actually said it.
is that an indication of the process with Anderson? Then
It
you
is.
say 8 fight,
Yeah,
you
it's
say
a
10, you
process.
say
It's a
that's
process.
what you mean.
Yeah.
It's
Listen, if he
fun,
wants to
really,
sign 8, I'm fine with 8. He said 10, you know? Yeah, I'm not worried about the Anderson Silva situation whatsoever. It's the last thing on my mind.
See any fan expos this year in Vegas?
I don't know about Vegas, but yeah, actually it would be Vegas, wouldn't it? Yes.
Memorial Day, 4th of
Answer is
July.
yes. I don't know off the top of my head, but
maybe
yes.
one.
Yes, definitely one.
Definitely one, and elsewhere as well. Maybe?
Yeah. That's one of the things that we're talking about when we do this thing out in the UK. We're talking about doing big fan expos too, built around these things. More than fan expos, even bigger than fan expos. We got some big plans for the UK. We just got to get this shit done this week.